everyone. I am extremely excited today to have the opportunity to be sitting chatting with Christina. Christina, welcome. Tell us about your professional role.
Hi, thank you, Sam, for that introduction. Very excited to be here with you. I think that this is a great opportunity for the both of us. I am currently a lead medical assistant and egg donor coordinator at a fertility clinic. It's called New England Fertility. I work for Dr. Gad Levy. He's a reproductive endocrinologist, and I also happen to be an experienced egg donor myself, and I'm currently transitioning into a full-time egg donor coordinator role. Hopefully, fingers crossed, by mid-November, I'll be done with training the other medical assistant.
Right, right. Because somebody has to fill the role that you're currently filling, right?
Exactly.
Can you tell us how the work that you do, really in all capacities, not just as an egg donor, but within the clinic as a whole, can specifically help members of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community start or grow their respective families?
So yes, Dr. Levy has been in the industry for over 30 years. Obviously, in that amount of time, you gain a pretty vast and diverse client base. A great percentage of that client base is part of what we call our third party program. Third party reproductive medicine is basically anybody who needs to use an egg donor or a surrogate, a third party to continue their family building journey. Majority of that client base is going to be your same-sex LGBTQIA identifying individuals, same-sex male couples, same-sex female couples. We have transgender patients. So that is how we, specifically help that client base. And we also happen to have an in-house therapist. So yeah, a very targeted group, I would say.
I would just want to, you mentioned therapist, and I just want to touch on that because for those who are watching and don't know where Christina is, she's based out of Connecticut. So those who are watching know that I'm just west of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So there's a difference in how things are done probably between here and there. And I know that here, if someone is using a third party donor for their conception or to carry their child, even with a surrogate, they need to seek counseling and see a social worker to help ensure that everybody is all on the same page and they understand the pros cons of the whole journey. Is that something that's mandated where you are as well?
It is actually. So we have our own egg donor program. Throughout the United States, there are agencies all over the place, and Canada and all over the world. But we happen to have our own egg donor program. We require that every egg donor that participates with our clinic has a psych evaluation. Every surrogate that participates in our program has a psych evaluation. Sometimes when they're coming from agencies, they will have already had that psych evaluation that they may have referred out to. But we have that advantage to where if they haven't yet, we can also provide that service to them. And then between the surrogates and the intended parents, as well as when there is a known donation, which I actually happen to be participating in a known egg donation myself right now, we had to have what was called a match meet, where there is a meeting between egg donor and or surrogate along with the intended parents.
Wow. And at first glance, you almost wonder why that's necessary. But as you start to look further and deeper into the whole process and journey and how emotionally involved it is for everyone that's participating, you can start to step back and appreciate how beneficial that counseling can really be on the journey.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Are there things that you might look for working in the capacity that you do that your clients might argue make you better suited to work with the 2S LGBTQIA plus community than perhaps your cisgendered heterosexual peers?
Yes. So I would say, through my interactions with the patients and even through some of the video interviews that the doctor has done with intended parents and patients here, specifically same-sex female couples, one of the most common trends that I have seen is that there's a lack of information and awareness when it comes to what we call reciprocal IVF. Now that is when same-sex female comes to us and we're going to create embryos with one or both of their eggs, and then the other is going to carry, and then vice versa. Sometimes they'll both carry, they'll switch off. Sometimes only one will carry, but they'll use their partner's eggs. And, you know, we have had clients who oftentimes come, a lot of our client base in general come from other agencies and clinics where, you know, I hear a lot of the times that they wish that they had found us first, because with the experience that we have, we are able to guide them through every step of the process. We have experience with reciprocal IVF where I've had a patient specifically make a statement along the lines of, you know, at the other clinic that we were at, we felt like they didn't even know what to do with us. And, you know, they just wish that they had found us sooner. We're grateful that they found us when they did, but, you know, I would say that that definitely makes a huge difference in patient care, especially with this community.
I don't think you could be more right. Really, it's a sensitive journey. It's a time sensitive journey for some people, depending on when it is that they're starting the whole process. And it's heartbreaking to think that not every facility and organization is as forward thinking and respectful of all groups as yours is.
Yeah. You know, of course, losing that time in between for anyone is discouraging. And, you know, luckily I can say that most of our clients, when they come to us, are pretty satisfied, and we kind of make up for that lost time. So I like to think.
Excellent. Well, that's perfect. Are there any pearls of wisdom that you've learned over the years that your clients would say they're especially lucky to learn from you that they wouldn't necessarily learn from anyone else?
I luckily am fortunate enough to have had friends, family, and colleagues who were all pretty, you know, open and non-judgmental to the fact that I am, you know, lesbian identifying. And however, I can say that I have not always been as open and expressive with my sexuality. I actually wasn't as open until about a year ago. Um,
Okay.
and, you know, I did get to go through the egg freezing process myself. I've been through the egg donation process. And as I mentioned, I'm currently going through a same sex donation. It's completely open. And for me, that's just my whole world coming full circle. But I would say that being a part of the practice that I am a part of, I've never been made to feel the other, luckily, but I've seen it through the eyes of friends. And it is definitely disheartening, especially being a part of the community, to hear some of the stories and some of the experiences that they have had. For sure.
Not yet having given birth yourself, you're not on that side of the process. However, that will
One,
happen for you at some point. That is your intention. But I mean, as an out gay person, are there periods of time in your life when you've been made to feel like you were the other? I mean, you're great. It's great that in your work where you are, everyone's welcome. But this isn't the only place you've ever worked before. Is that part of why you were more closeted before, or is it just that you just weren't there yet?
I just wasn't there yet. I don't want to say that anywhere that I've worked before wasn't inclusive. I've been fortunate enough again to
Yeah.
work for in other industries and other clinics where they, you know, for the most part were not really, they were pretty open, they were pretty inclusive. It just so happened that, you know, the client base that I was working with in other industries and at other clinics didn't have as they weren't as involved in the community. So it's not so much so that I didn't feel like I felt like I was made to feel like the other. Um, I just hadn't. It just wasn't a thing. It's not something that I had to experience, thankfully.
Excellent. Excellent. If when you get to the point of deciding, okay, this is it, we're ready to take this step, we're going to start our family, you know, understanding that there's a bias, you've agreed to be on this show and be interviewed by me about this, but can you see a value in a show like this for those who are just getting started on their journey and want to learn as much as they can. And are there certain topics that you would want to make sure were included in the conversation?
Oh, for sure. As we've said, yes, I'm not currently a parent, but there is going to come that time where I do have to go through reciprocal IVF. And it's something that I've always known, even since childhood, that I've wanted. And a show like this, and given the field that I'm in, knowing more about the field that I'm in now, definitely would have made a huge difference. For the longest time, I exclusively dated men because I knew I wanted that family. I knew I wanted children, and I thought that was the only way I was going to get that. That
Mhm.
was my dream. As a kid, I knew I wanted to be a mom. And I've always had this sensitive, caring, nurturing nature about myself. And I've always known I wanted to be a mom. And I thought that only way that was going to happen was with being with a man. And so that also ties in a lot to why, a year ago, I finally, I've been in the field for about 3 going on 4 years now. And knowing the things that I've known now and being a part of the community of the fertility field made it easier for me to become more open and expressive about my sexuality. And um, a show like this, I mean, I would have been living my true, authentic self a long time ago,
There.
for for sure. As far as some topics that I think need to be, addressed more, discussed more, as a care provider, working for a care provider, I think that it is really important, for anyone that's beginning their family building journey to know that wherever they decide to take their journey, no matter what, first and foremost, they need to feel welcomed, they need to feel comfortable, and they need to feel understood,
Mhm.
no matter, where they're coming from. If you don't feel like that right off the bat, then you're not in the right place. Um, I think, given the fact that I've seen so many different cases and heard so many different stories, I think it's a little important to shed some light on, the fact that there's not a lot of awareness about fertility preservation, which could be life changing for individuals who are seeking gender affirming procedures,
Mm.
um, and wanting to move forward with that. Hopefully, over time, we'll see a greater access to fertility preservation and fertility preservation benefits. But that's something that for a while now, actually, I've been thinking about, and having people that are a part in my life personally that I love dearly that are a part of the transgender community, and seeing patients that have come to us in the past. Um, I think that there needs to be, especially now that, you know, there gender affirming procedures are being performed at much younger ages, and there's not a lot of access to this information
Mhm.
for, young individuals to preserve their fertility. And I think it's so important, especially coming from someone who thought that I had to be with a man to
Mhm.
have the family. So I think that that's definitely something that needs to be discussed more for sure.
Yeah. There is, I'm actually proud to say that I know that there is, the close one of the closest, um, children's hospitals to where I am, actually, when they're in the pre-discussion of anything even starting, with teenagers who are looking towards gender affirming surgeries and just having those answers to their questions. One of the big things that they are promoting is, fertility preservation for their own use later on, because while they are probably not at an age necessarily at 14, 15, 16 to know
Think about
whether they even want to start a family someday, knowing that there's an option for them to take that into consideration so that it's down the road, that's a decision they can make for themselves, which is, I just, when I heard that, I was so pleased because that's something that they deserve and they need.
Yeah, no, I'm actually glad that you just mentioned that because you met Steven,
Yes.
and having a discussion earlier today, actually, and that's had that same exact discussion, and he said the same thing. It was just like, oftentimes these kids, these teenagers, they're not even thinking about whether or not they kids are not. And the fact that there are physicians and care providers out there that are taking the initiative to have that conversation,
Mhm.
because there's unfortunately, the reality is not all providers are going to take that initiative. They're going to have a teenager come in, they're going to perform the surgery, and that is life changing. That
Absolutely.
you're taking away an option that they're not even thinking about whether or not they want or not.
Yeah,
That's absolutely awesome to hear, and I think that it definitely needs to be a topic of discussion more frequently.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Is there anything that we haven't yet talked about or covered that you were hoping that we'd make sure to spend some time discussing today?
Actually, we just did. That was going to be my main thing right to bring up. That was going to be my main topic of discussion.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
I think that we have covered all of the things that I felt were going to be super beneficial and important to talk about for sure. Um, I'm just so happy to actually be doing this and be a part of the show. Honored.
Excellent. I'm truly honored that you said yes and that we happened to happen upon one another on TikTok. Social media is a blessing and a curse, I'm sure sometimes, but it's a wonderful way to connect people.
I honestly, I'm a huge spiritual person, strong believer in that everything happens for a reason, and we have definitely connected for some bigger purpose. And I'm happy to see what this all unfolds into,
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you. So my hope and my expectation is that this event is going to be followed everywhere and in North America and around the world. And so for those who are in North America, especially those on the Eastern Seaboard, please tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok. I have a TikTok that is documenting my journey currently with the same-sex male couple that I'm donating to. You can find me there. The handle is at eggdonation.is. And then from that same page, there's also a link that anyone can click to send me an email with anything that they want to talk about.
I love it. And can you just remind us again of the name of the clinic that you're working with?
I work for Dr. Gad Levy at New England Fertility in Stamford, Connecticut.
Wonderful. Thank you once again for taking the time to chat with me today. I truly, truly appreciate it.
As do I. I look forward to working together in the future for sure.
100%.
Thank you so much, Sam. It was a pleasure.